We shall overcome. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
So thank you so much, Faye, for joining in at India Podcast. It's a privilege to have you with me and my entire team here. So thank you for making that time.
No, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm sorry it's taken so long to actually fix this appointment, but I'm very happy to be here now.
Faye, to begin with, you have been known as the leading women journalist, young women journalist who's made a difference in the news industry. And how do you look at this contribution? Because I have a very short stint in this industry as well, but getting that connection with people where they see you making a difference and not just creating news is very, very tough. How do you look at your image like that and yourself being part of this journey?
So the way I see it is, I've always been very idealistic about journalism and about the contribution journalism can make to society and to the country that it serves. I still see it as a service to the nation. And
Okay.
so the attempt has always been throughout my career to be able to go back to the absolute basic principles of what journalism stands for, which is to inform, to inform the citizen and to keep the citizen informed on matters of importance, not matters that are of interest, because there are many things that people are interested in, but the matters that are
News is
important.
not entertainment.
News is not entertainment. It's not, it's not a restaurant that will serve you your meal the way you want it cooked.
Okay.
News is a service that is meant to inform you as a citizen about things that affect your citizenship and arm you as a citizen and a voter with information that makes you a better citizen and a more informed voter. That to
Totally.
me is the definition of what news does. So, in my definition, entertainment, news about entertainment finds no place. If unless we're talking about something that has to do with your fundamental rights,
Yes.
it telling you which actor has had a baby and what that baby has been named, I don't see as news. That
Okay.
is, it's gossip that people do enjoy, which is great, and you should enjoy. And it is information that there are certain businesses that do focus on, which is also great, but it should not be confused as news. And a lot of times, as Indians, we've blurred that line of what that news is. And I think also fundamentally where I am right now, mainstream media has forgotten what journalism is supposed to do, has forgotten what journalism is as a service. And as a result, we've created a really bad system that has lost the trust of a lot of young people. So my attempt right now is to be able to rebuild that trust in the profession by
And I should.
going back to the basics and doing journalism the way it was meant to be done, doing the
Yes.
news the way it was meant to be done.
But just a point that you made over here that it is not just about informing who has delivered which baby and who is becoming a mother, but we see the news industry in the other countries. We might see that a Meghan Markle story or the King family having the next heir is an important story, or what they want to say about their internal conflicts. Do you think that it is also about different country looking at news differently? Because the
I
same can
think
be.
that specifically to do with the royal family that you mentioned, and I've actually spent some time thinking about this. Right, um, in the UK, there is a very clear distinction between what is tabloid news and basically gossip magazines, and what is hardcore news. So the customer on the other end who is picking up that newspaper or that magazine at a newsstand knows what they are buying. So if
Okay.
they're buying a tabloid that prints photographs without permission, if they're buying a tabloid that writes gossip, they know what they're getting into, and that distinction is really important
Okay.
in my mind. That you know that this is what I want, so this is what I'm going to buy. No, this is what I want. I find this entertaining. So this is what I'm going to buy. There's no blurring of those lines. In India, unfortunately, what has happened is we've blurred those lines a lot. And it's all, overlapping one into the other. But more than stories of the royal family, the thing that worries me about India is that you have something called paid content, which is called different things by different newspapers. Some of them call it a Citizen Connect initiative,
Yes.
which basically means that somebody has paid to write uh, this story that looks like news, but it's not really news. And
Okay.
that sort of sleight of hand I find very dangerous.
Yes.
And invariably, a lot of times that's happening with stories about politics, about governments. Certain state governments will pay to have an entire page or an entire spread written about what amazing work they're doing. And it's not journalism, it's actually advertising.
It's
Which,
an advertisement. We
yeah,
have the main central
which is
government also
dangerous
do that.
because I don't know how many citizens can tell the difference. I mean, those of us who've been in the business, we
Yes, we
can
still.
take a look at it and we can tell the difference because the fonts are
Yes.
slightly different. We know what the tone sounds like of these two different things, but I don't know how many citizens can tell the difference. And that is really dangerous.
And most of the journalists have tried to break through and set up independent platforms. We have few of them already come out and set up that. What led your seeking for that independent platform? Was it in the planning for long, or because your resignation was not easily accepted though? So by the people, by the way, not by the.
Thank you. So I had actually worked for about 14 years before headed Mirror. Now I worked as a business journalist, focusing on personal finance, focusing on a lot of other things. So there was I believe that it was a lot of people called me an overnight success, but I was an overnight success that was 14 years in the making. In the sense that it takes a lot of groundwork and grunt work and sort of daily just focusing on the job to be able to build yourself into someone who has a voice that you yourself can trust, which is really important, right? Because a lot of times we don't trust our own voices. To be able to reach that point where you have a certain confidence in your own voice takes time. um, it happened to me as a bunch of opportunities presented themselves. I had people within the system who believed in, who took a chance with me and who gave me those opportunities. I took those opportunities. I tried to make the most of them. So a lot of times it's about right place, right time. Grabbing the opportunity, not letting go of anything, and just staying on course. In terms of deciding to become an independent journalist, there were varied factors that were in play, not the least of which was the fact that I felt I didn't have the independence to do the kind of work I wanted to do anymore. That independence was clearly withering away. I had seen a year and a half ago the rot set into television news that I think now the population, the general public sees on the outside. It was obvious on the inside, a year and a half ago that this was happening, that there was no room for honest journalism on television anymore because it was such a high stakes game. And basically what happened was television is such an expensive prospect because you need the equipment, you need the studios, you need the manpower, you need the satellite space, you need distribution. It costs hundreds of crores of rupees to put together a television news channel, and you have to recover that money. And how do you recover that money in a bad economy where the viewership is dipping? You do anything for TRPs. And we saw people do anything for TRPs. It was no longer news. It was, they were in competition with your Sasbahu serials and your Big Boss and, roadies.
Oh my God.
This is what television had become, what news had become on television. And it was obviously something very unhealthy about it, which I didn't want to be part of. Also, let's be honest about the fact that in news right now, the biggest advertiser is government, state and center. And so you have channels now that don't want to bite the hand that's feeding them, because most of their advertising is coming from governments and conclaves and members of government coming to their conclaves in order for them to make money. So there was no room to do work that I wanted to do
That you.
anymore. And I had promised myself a long time ago that I would do the job for as long as it was honest. And the day it stopped being honest, I would stop doing the job. And I kept that promise to myself,
Yes.
which was which came as a shock to many people, including myself, because I didn't realize it would happen so quickly. And
Yes.
but it played out, and we are where we are today. But fundamentally, also, I saw that a lot of young people were not watching television anymore. They shifted to the internet. They were disgusted with the profession the way it was, and because of that, they were also not being informed. So I felt the need that to create something that informs young people adequately, and is no longer, so because at that point, a lot of the young people I was talking to at least, were spending all their time on Instagram, sort of posting pictures of their meals. And so it was all meals, food, fashion, cats, dogs, right? There was no, we were raising a generation of people who didn't know what was going on in the country. And I felt that there was
Yes.
a need to remedy that without bringing in the adversarial conversation. So what's happening right now is that something takes place in the country, and immediately the country is split into two halves, right?
Strong opinions floating on Twitter,
And
on
everybody's yelling at
Insta.
everybody else. So
Yes.
nobody's bothering to tell you what is happening. Nobody bothers to tell you what is a toolkit. Nobody bothers to tell you what are these farm laws and why is everybody upset about them. What is the history of this problem.
And people want to know, according to you. They want to know it, but there's nobody telling
Yes,
them.
yes, they want to know it, but they don't want to have to sift through. Like, I know that I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I know that I have to sift through a lot of hate on Twitter in order to simply, if you want to find out what happened, that's a lot of hate to have to read through. Maybe, mental health wise, I don't want to have to do it to myself. Uh, you switch on the television to watch your evening news, and there is no nuance in the conversation. They're shouting at each other for a whole hour about the same point. They've not moved forward at all. So my understanding of the issue has not been helped in any way, because none of these people who are shouting at each other are domain experts. They're just throwing opinions around, and that's
Totally.
not
And now everybody gets that. Like, it's very clear.
yeah, and that's not helping. So there was definitely a gap. And honestly, I'll tell you what, even if it's just 5 people who watch my video, I'm happy, because I stepped out of television. I'm not in a race for TRPs anymore. I don't care. I don't have to compete with anybody. I don't have to be number one. I don't have to get good numbers. I don't have to do TRPs. So I just like the idea of putting out work that I feel strongly about. And if a handful of people somewhere watch it and say, hey, this was really good, we liked it, I'm done.
One question I have before I go to the callers and asking you a question is about, Faye, you have not, you don't seem to be intimidated by the political guest or any powerful position guest, because few incidents have come to limelight though, where you have very professionally silent them out if they try to cross the line, because it's very difficult being, especially journalists, we often are intimidated. And I have spoken to a couple of them. I spoke to Sagarika Ghosh. She said, I actually gave up pursuing guests to come to my show. There's a limit to me requesting, sir, please aa jaiye, mere show pe aa jaiye, and all that. And there was a lot of intimidation and a lot of threats also coming by on her way. My point is that I've seen you, especially with the Goa minister, you very politely put through the line. And how much do you really get scared, or is it just the honest, frank Faye who doesn't care, he comes to you next time or not?
So see, there are a ton of politicians in the country who will not speak to me right now,
Okay.
because obviously, because I have certain rules about the way I do interviews. I don't share questions beforehand.
At
I will
all.
not share at all, ever. I will share a scope of the conversation. So we'll have a conversation saying, hey, you know what, you and I are going to talk. We're going to talk at this time of the day, this date. It will be live or it will not be live. And this is the scope of the conversation. These are the issues I'm going to ask you about. But I never share absolute questions with anybody. So obviously there are a lot of people who are not comfortable with that. And there are a lot of politicians who only take questions from those who will give them, we call
You will
them.
give them a heads up to what's happening.
Yeah. So which is, and once someone agrees to give me an interview, once that interview has started, I see it as a responsibility to my viewer that I do the best job I possibly can. That means not letting the person off the hook.
Okay.
And if that person doesn't come back to do another interview, then
it's okay.
It's okay.
Did you
You
give
know,
any
I'm not here to
feedback?
be liked. I'm not here to be anybody's friend, and I really am not anybody's friend. I'm a terribly lonely person. I have no political friends. I have no political allies. I have no interest in building that either. My aim is just to be able to do the best job I can today, and if tomorrow I'm not able to do this job anymore, then I'll figure out something else. Yeah, I'll do some other profession. Interviewers don't have to be impolite. It is very possible to be polite, to be respectful, and yet be firm about the question you are asking. Uh, and a lot of times now, people expect that when you do an interview, you will wind up jumping down the throat of that person and you will, you will pin them down. That's not the job. The job is to ask a question and to ask all the important questions, to allow the person in front of you to finish answering, to counter question and do follow ups, and to only challenge and stop them when they have presented information that is not factual. If there is a misrepresentation, if there is a lie, you have to challenge it, because what happens is, if I ask you, if I'm doing an interview with you and you say the sky is pink, and I don't challenge that, now I have led all my viewers to believe that the sky is pink. So
Okay.
the job of the journalist is to challenge that statement, saying, hey, you know what? I have data contrary to what you are saying. I
Okay.
believe you are misrepresenting this fact, because I owe it to my audience to put that in, that this current statement that was said is not true. Because at the end of the day, giving the audience honest, truthful information is your only job. So there can be no situation where either you or your guest misleads the audience.
Faye, we have with us Anish over here, Anish Agarwal. He's calling in from Bangalore.
Okay.
And he works with Amazon, and he's also, it's very interesting that how do you call him a vegan farmer?
Hello, good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, Anish. You're a
How are you doing?
vegan. You're a vegan farmer. Is
Yeah,
that
ma'am.
so? You grow vegetables.
Yeah, like I'm learning also and I'm growing also.
Okay, so you are a farmer who happens to be vegan.
You can say that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Uh, so, ma'am, my question to you is like you have been blocked from DD Kosambai Festival in 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. So, ma'am, how you take such polarized rejection from the political parties?
Well, Goa is one of my favorite places in the country, so I'm not taking that rejection. I go back to Goa whenever I feel like it.
Okay.
Incidentally, I'd been invited to this. It was a really odd thing that happened. I'd been invited to this event, and I in fact had to cancel because I couldn't be there for some reason. And this happened parallelly, where the government also withdrew its invitation at the same time. But I'm not surprised. Like I said, the aim is not to be anybody's friend. And at that point, I had, which is unusual for a journalist, I had, taken a break from journalism to stand with the anti-CA protesters, because I believe that
Yes.
it was wrong for our country. I decided
Yeah.
that was good to do, and I had actually attended several protests across the country. I had gone to protests in Bangalore, in Calcutta, in Hyderabad, in Delhi, and in Mumbai. And the government in Goa basically decided that they didn't want me to be on a dais of the government, because they weren't really sure if I would bring up ITCA, which is them looking after their interests. But that's fine. I mean, I'm not, I think it was Ramnath Goenka who said that if there is anyone in government who's paying you a compliment as a journalist, then you're not doing your job well.
Hi, Faye. Hope you're having a great day today.
I am. It's really nice to meet you.
I'm glad. So my question for you was, give me a second, okay? So, very recently, people weren't really talking about the Similipal fire that happened. And you were one of the first people who actually came out on internet or YouTube or Instagram to raise that topic. So do you always feel the need that when you pick up a sensitive issue, that it becomes a topic of the nation? As in, do you feel that burden that someone has to start it and you must go ahead and do that?
So I don't feel the burden of the nation on my shoulders. I certainly don't take responsibility for everybody else in the media, because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I did that. But when we choose on a daily basis what we're going to do today or what issue it is we're going to take up, I want to be able to do justice. By justice, I mean take up issues that affect us as citizens.
Right.
Right? And I saw this forest fire, something that affected us greatly as citizens. If it leads to other people in the media taking it up, if it leads to more of a reaction, more awareness, then that's great. Then I've done my job. But fundamentally, I believe that I owe it to my viewers
True.
to be able to put before them the most pressing issue of the day.
So you've catered to the English-speaking audience, but somehow connected strongly with the real Bharat. Is this the genuine reporting that pulls people to you?
So actually, I would have loved to be able to put out content in different languages. Unfortunately for me, English is my language of comfort. And also when you are in this space, it's really important to have a good command over the language that you're functioning in, because it's really, there's no room for error per se when you're dealing with issues like this. I'm happy to hear you say that there are people in other languages who are also, accessing the content. My aim or my dream for the company that I've started is that we are able to create similar offerings in different languages.
How wonderful.
So once we've got and see the big challenge really of functioning on the internet as an independent journalist is to find the viability, where basically find a way to do this content and also be able to make enough money to pay salaries, to be able to bring in great talented people, pay them enough money so they can pay their rent and they can live their lives, because everybody expects journalists to starve, but
that's true.
Viable, right? And then once we have that model down, be able to replicate it with talented journalists in different languages.
So do you think that with this idea of censorship and with this strict, rules and regulation coming in, do you think the internet news readers and people who are providing you independent news would have to kind of hold back and would have to, watch their saying, speak very consciously? Or do you think it will actually change the face of the news as we are seeing it right now?
Actually, it's not the sedition that online journalists are most worried about, because sedition we live with. It's always been there. Mahatma Gandhi went to jail during the independence movement on sedition. That was the case that they filed against him. So we've lived with sedition, and that's not new. But the thing that I would be worried about as a citizen of this country is the new regulations that the government of India has written for online news, specifically for those of us who function on YouTube, specifically for those of us who analyze news on YouTube. So it's been written keeping a certain number of people, certain specific people in mind. One of the reasons why Huffington Post shut down in India and saw massive layoffs, which is terrible because journalists have lost their job, is because they brought in a rule saying that you cannot have more than 26% foreign investment in your organization if you are a digital news organization. Huffington Post was bought by BuzzFeed globally. Everywhere else in the world except in India, because they said that this regulation doesn't allow us to own this organization. So we're not going to buy it. And so as a result, it lost its patronage. It had to shut down. The rules that have been written by the government right now, which are being challenged in court by various journalists, effectively will shut down independent news the way we know it in India. And I'm not mincing words here. What it does is it creates a grievance redressal system where we have to respond to any citizen who files a grievance with us within a certain period of time. Now imagine what happens when the trolls write 4,000 complaints in one day.
Imagine. Oh God.
I mean, I have a 4-member team. We will all have to sit and just answer those. The cost of that compliance goes through the roof. The second thing that they've done is they've said that you can have a self-regulatory committee, form a panel, but that panel needs to be approved by the government. And the government,
it's all the same. It's like the government set up the panel rather than asking you.
And then over and above all of that, and they keep saying that they're doing this in order to bring in a level playing field between television, print, and internet. What television and print don't have is this third level of regulation, which is a committee of bureaucrats from various ministries of the government of India. And there's no other representative. There are no journalists, ex-journalists, there are no retired, that is nothing. They're just babus from ministries. who have the ability to take down our content, who have the ability to shut down our YouTube channels and our Instagram handles, and who have the ability to send us notices, they will take suo motu cognizance, which means that they will decide on any given day what they want to pull up, and they can actually send us a notice to take down our content without our day in court. So as it stands right now, if you put up a video that I have a problem with, the only way to take it down is to go to court. And I will argue my case, and you will argue your case, and the court will decide.
And the court will decide.
Yes.
But if the babus are given the power,
this is the first time in the history of India that somebody other than the courts have been given the power over content. This is a massive slap in the face of the freedom of speech, a massive slap in the face of your creative freedoms and your freedom of press. But I get a sense that a lot of people in this country don't realize that this has happened and how serious it could be. And it is a strategy inside of television channels to take the news that they broke at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and break it again at 6 o'clock in the evening. Same news, it has not changed. It's just so I can show you that it's breaking again. You break the same thing again, which is why they're constantly in this state of breaking news. Now, there are so many problems with that system. One, and not the least of it, is the audience only comes in for a maximum of 5 minutes at a time, but the team is working constantly.
oh Lord.
Right? You have people coming in.
Production team. We don't want to be on flashes. We don't want to be on. We have worked through that channel where you don't want to do that. You just want to be a reporter and anchor.
No, but even reporters and anchors, right? It is so unhealthy a system for the people who work in that, because whatever it is you're doing, the pressure on you to constantly turn out stress. What are they doing? They're manufacturing stress 24/7. That is not an easy job.
Like specifically in case of arrest of Safura Zargar or Disha Ravi, right? How specific these cases are and how, violation of human rights it is, like direct in your face. Do you think it's just like government's way of telling you that how to what extent they will be going to curb this dissent in any way possible? Like any way you want to dissent, you just cannot.
So I do see these things as warning shots, which is basically fire a shot in the air to just scare everybody.
Yeah.
So it is perhaps a message to everyone saying that this can happen to you also. I think the Disha Ravi attempt was largely to tell all the parents not to let your kids go to protests.
Yeah.
Because immediately parents would be like, "You kar rahe ho, mat karo, jane do na. What is the point? Why, how does this affect you? It affects your it affects your your place of work. It goes on your record. Nobody wants that. So they'll tell their kids to stay away from it. So yeah, I think that way it was a cautionary tale to young people across the country. But I would say that people who want to send cautionary messages to young people should read their history. Young you threaten the youth, the more emboldened they become, because that is exactly what youth is like. Every revolution that the world has seen in history has been driven by young people. I mean, yes, Gandhi was an elderly gentleman when he led the movement to independence, but the people who were marching behind him were young. The people who burnt their clothes and their books and dropped out of university and refused to wear European clothes were young people. Dissent is always young. The people protesting in Myanmar are young. The people protesting in Hong Kong are young. At the end of the day, the youth is the power, dude. And India has the largest population of young people today that it has ever had before. So, I mean, we'd be interpreting these arrests as warning shots.
Yes.
But I would advise against it for someone who wants to scare young people.
Well, that's why you win so much heart in young people.
So these are some most Google questions with Faith. Okay.
Okay.
The commune spoken poetry performance,
Yes.
which just took internet by the storm. We were all watching you on loop, and it was so direct, and the performance was just like so. You could relate to it. So was it something that you planned that I wanted to do spoken word? You wanted to do storytelling? Or
No,
was it just
so actually, so Commune is run by a friend called Roshan Abbas. So he got in touch with me saying, do you want to do this? And I'd never done spoken word before. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And they had, so he appointed someone from his team to help me write the story. So I had it was a great experience where I wrote something from my personal experience, and then I worked with someone to tweak it and, make sure that it's performance ready, which they had to teach me because I hadn't done that before. So we wrote this, and I performed it, and I was terrified. I was so nervous. It was a really large audience. And it was a solo performance. There's nobody else there. It's just you. I was really nervous. It was very exciting. It was completely outside my comfort zone in every way. But I enjoy that. I enjoy going out of my comfort zone. So
You don't look nervous at all, Faye.
I was terrified. No idea.
Okay, so the next one is another very boss lady move by you. So this is a tweet which was a reply to a lot of people.
Okay, so this basically, I get called rice bag a lot on Twitter. So basically, there is the legend goes, or the story goes, that when the missionaries arrived in India, along with the British Raj and the Portuguese and the French, they converted a lot of people in India by offering them food. So they would offer them a bag of rice. So as a result, Christians are called rice bags. Now, there are two aspects to this. It is a slur. It is an insult. It's a gali, right? Specifically, it is a caste slur because the conversion largely happened among the lower caste who wanted to escape the hegemony of the caste system and also needed someone to give them food, right? And so there are these people on Twitter who, very interestingly, say rice bag at the bottom of whatever I tweet. So they don't even bother. I could wake up in the morning and say good morning, and they'll say rice bag at the bottom. But the way I see it, I was like, listen, dude, I'm South Indian. I eat rice on every meal. So you want to give me rice? I'm fine with it. This is not something I see as offensive.
I don't know what all of you want to leave the last moment with Faye with. I want one song from you, Faye. I have done this
A song.
I have never let go of my favorite guest without singing for me.
God.
I'm not going to do that with you.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you so
This
much.
we shall overcome should go to everyone. You really made us feel good today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.